Street of black light. Street of black light. Street of black light. Slow down, Papa, don't you blow.
Hello, have you had a good week? Are you well? Are you enjoying your life? I hope so. Right, so I think this is part 7 off the top of my head. Look, you know, lucky number for some people, unless you're a motorcyclist. Now, the front cowling. Okay. Best way to approach this, I think, is to start putting on the sides and then do a trial fit at the bottom, because trying to get these to stay in place where you do a trial fit is a little bit problematic. So this is part 13. And let's have, just so you can say I've not practiced this. Part 16 goes on the bottom. Okay, so there's 16. Now I know you can't see this straight off, but I'll just go to a trial fit with that. See if that will go in there. I've got a flat surface, and yeah, it's slightly oversized, which is good because then I can sand it down, and that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so what I've done is I've put the bottom half in. You put 16. These are shaped, so obviously it goes that way. That goes in there like that, and then this part goes on top, and that's just slightly proud by about 2 mil. So that's fine, because if that was smaller, I'd have to put some spacers in or something like that. So that's okay. That's great. That's lovely. That is. So I think the best thing to do is to lay it flat on a flat surface, offer this up. And a matter of fact, while I'm thinking about it, let's see what effect having the battery cover on will make. Okay, it goes past the battery cover, but it does appear to be flush, so I can afford to take that off. There you go, and then just glue that on, so that's not going to affect anything. You need to check things, you know, offer them up, you know, measure twice, cut once, is the old adage, so I learnt off my father, God bless him. So let's get this on. Now remember, the round is a rounded part here that goes at the bottom. Please don't forget that. It doesn't go at the top like that, because you're going to end up with a, well, not being in a good place. So this stuff's pretty porous, so you won't have very long to wait. Let's get it all over there, everywhere you can. Alright, and then put your top back on, little stick, and spread it over. Make sure it goes everywhere. There you go. Nice and evenly spaced. Wipe off any excess you might find. Put that down somewhere where it's not going to stick to your bench, and then very, very carefully offer that up. It'll stick almost immediately. Get your bottom edge in like that. Lay it flat, and then just give it a little bit of pressure. Cook it down maybe a mil, but that's okay, that's fine. Alright, and just let that go off. This will only take a few minutes, so I'll just stop it there for a second, or pause it if you like, and come straight back to you. Okay, so I managed to put the other side on as well, just doing exactly the same thing, except I actually accidentally glued it to the pad. Anyway, that's what life's all about. So now we have, let's double check, did I say part 16? Yes I did. This is part 16. So part 16 has that edge there, see that? So that will obviously go in like that. Now it needs a good Oh, a good 2 mil off it. Okay, let's see if we can take 2 mil off it. You need to get it on something flat and just rub it, not too much, and just give it a trial fit. Yeah, and there's a lot more yet. Don't get bored with you. There we go. And try that. Nearly there. Another mil. And just take a bit off at a time and just keep refitting it, and eventually with a bit of patience that will drop in. You need to get as tight a fit as you can, really. Just talk amongst yourselves for a bit. No, it's nearly there, nearly there. Not quite. Such is the joys of model making, isn't it? Tom Cruise owns a P51 Mustang. I think he's a, what's this, CBCD or an E? I think it's a late, probably a Korean one. They did use the P51 in Korea. Not much I do know. Oh, that is so close. In his second Top Gun film, I believe that Mustang he's flying is his own personal Mustang. It's also my belief that in the Mission Impossible movie, he actually learnt how to fly a helicopter just to do those stunts, and that was really him doing it. Oh, just a few thou off that. Off the middle, this bit here. Apart from his religious sort of bendings, I mean, he's the kind of guy you want to be, really, isn't he? You know? He's not exactly ugly, he's certainly rich. Got some bottle, I'll give him that. I don't know how old he is. I think he's nearer my age, if I'm being honest. Good on him, he's kept himself fit. No. I'm going to, rather than bore you to tears, I'm going to sand that down and come back in a minute. Right, so I managed to get that to fit in. I've not glued it. I need to move you over here. Hope you don't get seasick. The top and the bottom is not glued in, but when you put the ring on, it should go something like that. And then you use this as your infill on the corners. Okay, so that closes that up a little bit. and then you should have that ring goes on top. I do have an idea about how to get the ring absolutely spot on, but I'll need to investigate a little bit more about that. But that's broadly how it's going to turn out. So putting you back over here, if you don't mind, got a bit of a wobble going on there. Okay, so that bottom bit is a bit of an exact fit. So you've got to try and get as much as you can. Everything's a bit of a compromise. You have this rounded part here, but you've got to try and get that front edge to fit and in line with that front edge, like that. Because you've got to take a lot off. You don't want to do it to the detriment of that ring. So if I try and put that back on, if I can, and you put the ring on, you've got to make sure that you got some meat around that ring, so that that spindle that's going through off the motor is in the centre. But you know, you can't afford to lose any meat at the bottom if you can help it. Okay, so that's the plan. That's the position I'm going to go for. It's a bit proud there, but that's all right. That can sand off. So I'm going to glue that in now. And I shan't bore you with that bit. I'll just do it, and then you can have a look at it when it's done. Okay, so what you'll end up with is that. It should look something like that at the front, the side, the top and the bottom. Okay, so you'll see that the top part is just straight on the top there, and I'll put the battery cover on so you can see how that will look. Now what you need to do is run your pencil over this end of the battery cover. You must put this on and then draw around it, because you need to get that profile. You don't want to go any lower than that pencil mark. You don't. So the best way I would suggest of moving forward now is to put a brand new blade in your Stanley knife that hasn't got a thing sticking on it. Put a brand new blade in there and start carving it, and then you get it to a certain shape, and then you sand it from there. Now you could try, there's no, on the drawing, there's no profile as such that you can follow. The only one you might be able to use is that one there. Now I haven't tried this yet, but you probably could cut that out, offer it up to the front end and use it as a guide. But don't forget, you've got the ring. Now where's the ring gone? You've got the ring there. So really you need to place that as best you can. You can work it out and then draw around it, and then you've got something to go on with. Okay, so I'm going to go off camera. I won't go all the way down, but I'll come back to you as soon as I've taken some of this off and show you how I do it. Okay, thanks. Right, before I start carving this out, it's important to know where this ring actually sits. And you can see I've marked it. So how did I arrive at that? Well, I made my own little washer, and that washer fits over the top there like that, and this fits over the top of that. And because the motor is central, and we know it's central, that's where the ring sits. And so I thought I'd share that with you. And all you have to do is just go around it with a pencil and it marks everything out there, so you know you don't want to go any further in than that pencil mark, and that should just fit nicely. Now you're probably wondering, what's the dimensions of it, mate? Well, here's the thing. I believe this is 50mm inside diameter. The outside diameter is, let's have a look, looks like 59mm. So what I did was I got a cutter, a 61mm cutter. Then this came out quite larger. Then I used the centre hole that was there, which was a 6mm. Put that in a nut and bolt either side, put it in the drill and span it, and then brought it down until it fitted there. Now I went a little bit too far, so that's why I put that tape round it, so it bring it back, so that seats in there so well that that will not drop out. Okay, and then there was a 6mm hole there. Then I got a 20mm cutter, took out the centre, reamed out the middle of it with some glass paper here, and then just kept trial fitting onto that boss there until it fitted. So then all I had to do was put the ring over the top of it, and that gives me my centre. Okay, so let's get the knives out and start carving. I started to carve out and a little bit of sanding on the front there, so I rounded it off, and then it suddenly occurred to me there's no profile for the very front. So I spent a whole of Sunday evening coming up with this. Now this is where the ring goes like this, and of course there's an air intake at the bottom. So using my school compass, I managed to draw on a rounded air intake. The only thing is there enough wood? So I've had to draw on where I think the wood lies to see if I can physically do it, and I'm really not unsure, if I'm being absolutely honest with you. But anyway, I'm going to start rubbing it down. I'm not going to bore you with the rubbing down, because it just, well, there's nothing to it really. I'll just stop and start every now and again and just show you the progress, and when you come to do your own kit, you'll have an idea. So I'm going to probably just round that off a little bit more and then take it from there. Right, so I've managed to get everything to this shape here. So I think there's probably some more shaping that can go on, but now I think I've got to the point where I need to add this ring on. So just to make it clear to you, that ring there, I think it's now time that goes on, because then I can sound right up to that ring. So I'm going back to my gauge that I've made, and so I can glue that in place, and I'll glue that on with 5-minute epoxy and then start again, because now I've got something to work to, and that's where we're at. Baby cat. Okay. Oh, and just in case you're wondering, there you go. All right. Happy with that? And forward we go. I'm very sorry, I forgot to stop and start and show bits and bobs. So I've got to the point with this where I don't think it's worth doing any more to it. So I'll put the nose on, which I think is a good gauge to see where you are. So if you look at it face on, profile, you know, this is the air intake. Now you could hollow that out, but you're going to weaken it, and I don't think there's anything really much to be gained from it. But you know, you shaped it here and here, so you've got the right shape. This is all rounded off. So there's the side profile, and it's a bit sharp like. And I think really, if I was to put more into that, I think I might spoil it. So I'm going to leave that as it is, like that. So I think that's job done. I don't know what you think. You know, yeah, you could do more, but I think, you know, you just either make a mistake or spoil it. So I'm going to leave it there. So that's where we are. Right, well, I thought I'd do a trial fit of the wing, because you know, you have to put the bolt on and you have to line the wing up and make sure you put the hole in the right place and everything else. And obviously I'd pre-marked the hole before, which was a very good idea as it turned out, because it was spot on. So I made a mistake though. I got some rather large elastic bands, and I tried to put them over the back of the fuzz there and bring them round to hold the wing on temporarily, so I could let it go, so I could make sure it's all in line. And right here, the elastic bands here and here cut into the trailing edge, and it's not massive or anything like that, but I just thought, well, don't put elastic band round there, because you'll dent your back of your wing. I'll take a bit of a look at it later. So anyway, the fit is, I would say, darn near perfect. It really is quite something. And the wings just sit really nice. They sit nice to the fuzz. It's a nice comfy fit. And it's gone first go, so I'm pretty happy with that. There's the underneath, and here is your wing bolt. So I'm just going to undo that now. It's quite a long bolt, but you have to run it through the thread a few times, because this is a nylon moulded bolt. So it has like a join edge on it, and you need to run it through. So I actually got a 6mm nut and run it through the 6mm nut, because that'll take that little bit of edge off where it's been moulded. Otherwise it can be quite a tedious undoing. It's not quite undone yet. Come on now, I know you want to. Will that come out like that? So this is the thing, I don't know if it's all the way out or not, because this part here, it stops the viewing of the top of the thread. So I'll just grab a torch, because I don't want to force anything. Just see the edge of it. It looks like it's come out. If it has, the wings should part readily. Not quite. Now it's out. It's come out. Okay. Now that's a lot easier to handle now. So there's your hole through your ply plate, and the hole comes through obviously the other end there, so it should look like that, and that is exactly the right spot. Now I did measure it. I think it was 250 millimeters. I'll just grab my ruler. There you go. So from the leading edge to centre, 25mm or 2.5 centimetres. So there you are. And it was spot on. So I'll just put these to one side for a moment. There is your bolt. Now what I did, I centred, you need this piece of ply here, which I think is number 26. I centred it, marked the centre here, and I got the centre here, so I know that's going to go in the centre to make it line up for the bolt to go through. I drilled a 2mm hole either side, used 2 screws, and they come out the other end. So now, so once you've marked it, and you've glued this on, I've used 5-minute epoxy to glue this on. When you come to screw this on, make sure there's like a 1/2 mil hole or a 1 mil hole that goes all the way through. Then when the self-tapping screw goes in, it goes into former, is it number 2? Former number 2, as well as, just goes through a couple of mil. So that secures that to this former. So the next thing to do is we have to put the wing seats in, and they, much to my surprise and delight, fit exactly. And so that's a sign that you're doing things right, when things fit exactly. So they go in there. So I'm going to use some 5-minute epoxy on these, one either side. Let's go in like that. There you go. In fact, I think that one stays as it is. Yeah, it does. So I'm going to put those in, and then I'll go do another, you know, make sure the wing does seat properly. And what's next? I think the air intake goes on the bottom of the wing, but I have to think this over carefully now, because I may shape it to fit, and then put the bandage, as a bandage goes in the middle that you have to use resin with, and then do that, and then refit it again. But I'm hoping that band won't make any difference to anything. Making it fit wise, I meant, because obviously you're adding something to it, so you know when you come either side. But we'll see. Well, let's get the wing seats in, and they're number 17. Okay, and I'll see you in a minute once I've glued them in. I've just put 5-minute epoxy on them, put some close pegs on, leave them for 6, 7, 8 minutes. They'll be in, and then I'll do the trial fit, and then I'll start looking at the bandage for the wing. Okay, I'm afraid that's going to have to conclude part 8, mainly because due to editing issues and so forth. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this bit. I found it rather fascinating myself, so please join me in part 9. I hope you have a good week. Thank you for joining me. That's super smashing great, and looking forward to seeing you in the next part. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right. Cool down, Papa, don't you blow your top.